Hey guys, welcome to the 180 Drum Challenge. Hanging out with my man Ben Satterlee, and this guy is just destroying it for us. We're talking about bass drum. Specifically, we're talking about learning to displace 16th notes on the bass drum.
Right.
And Ben is gonna run us through it. So dude, tell us about this lesson.
Alright, so basically, it's just all about the single pedal, man. And not that I got anything against the double pedal, I just can't do it.
You're a single pedal guy.
I'm a single pedal guy. I just can't do it. I'm still getting this under control, you know? One of the questions I get asked more than anything is, you know, how do you build up speed? Yeah, independence, 100%. All that stuff. And so basically, I feel like I came up with, you know, 5 or 6 examples of little patterns you can do to allow yourself to be able to slowly build up your foot. The emphasis is to slowly build up a solid foundation as opposed to blinding fast chops right out the gate.
Now let me just give you some, not that I even think you need any kind of credentials off the top, but let me just say guys, when it comes to Ben's footwork, I'm hands down super impressed. I mean, dude, like the way you, your control over the pedal, I think even just down to like a really specific placement, the way you make everything feel, it's awesome. So I'd really suggest that you guys take some time to listen to everything he's saying. If he's saying do it slow and work on it, come on man, everything.
You know, I read an article when Thomas Lang was first getting hip in, you know, America, when people were starting to get, you know, word who he was, and he talked about building up a foundation of control as opposed to speed. Speed being a byproduct of control and not the other way around. Because there's a lot of guys, metal guys, that can play, you know, crazy fast, but don't have a lot of control when they have to slow down.
Right.
And it's like, I would rather be able to control and do whatever I want and just happen to be fast.
Sure, yeah.
So, so the first example is just displaced eighth notes. So we're just playing the ands, okay?
Sweet.
Over an eighth note vamp and 2 and 4 on the snare. So here we go.
Dude, that sounds great. Now, one thing that I would comment on right away that students should pay attention to is you're kind of got that, I call it sometimes a molar. It's not necessarily a molar stroke. You're just accenting the quarter note a lot more heavily.
Yeah, yeah.
So getting comfortable playing that bass drum solid on that somewhat of an upbeat thing and not just mashing.
You know what's funny is that, like, I remember when I first started trying to develop the molar technique, it was such like a focal point for me.
Right.
And then it kind of just became a happy byproduct. You know, I was just kind of doing it because it felt good.
Yeah.
You know, and I wasn't thinking like, okay, now right hand do this and mishmash around. It was just kind of, it happened. You know?
Yeah.
That's how it feels the best to me.
Right.
Boom, doom, doom. But, you know, I kind of have to, I also, you notice I kind of rock when I play.
Huge.
You know, that's a massive part of it. You know, Steve Jordan talks about how if you can't groove, if you can't dance to your own groove, no one else can.
Right.
And so it's like, if you're playing and you're trying to do a lot of this and it's just too much.
Yeah.
You know? So if you can do a simple groove and have a lope to it, you can feel it. And you hope that everyone else is too, you know? So, okay, so example 1 was just the ands, 1 and 2 and. Next one is the e's and the uhs only. So once again, eighth notes. So we're playing off. So the hat and the bass drum is going back and forth off each other.
Sick.
So the only thing keeping us in straight time is the 2 and 4.
Yeah.
Because it almost sounds like it's double timing, like a ska beat. You know. So this is what it sounds like.
Now, dude, do you want to also demonstrate that, adding in that molar technique now so they can see what that'll sound like as well?
Sure, absolutely.
And now, before we even move on from that, do you also want to demonstrate that same thing on the floor tom?
Sure, sure.
Because this is so often that double bass thing.
That it happens all the time.
Yeah. Killer, man. Sounds great. So that's a great one to really practice, take your time with.
Right.
You suggest just using that more as an exercise than an actual groove, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a frantic thing that unless you're helping to set up maybe like a guitar part or a really, you know, the climax of a song, I wouldn't suggest just throwing that in there.
Be used sparingly.
Right, exactly. You know, I mean, in the metal world, I know a lot of guys, single pedal guys.
Yeah.
There's a lot. That's kind of becoming the new thing.
Totally.
Is playing hardcore metal with single pedal.
It's awesome.
Our friend Aaron Gillespie.
Yes.
You know,
absolutely.
he does that, and he's unbelievable at
Dude,
it. You know,
so good.
So yeah, that's something that I wouldn't necessarily say throw in just your Beatles tribute.
Yes.
But
Yeah, that's
it
right.
can be cool used sparingly.
Dude, Ringo had a double pedal.
Yeah, dude, just blinding, blast beats.
Awesome, man. Okay, now we've got number 3. We're moving on to just those quick doubles. This is great.
Right. So on this one, we're doing 1E and 3E, and then we're doing the E of 2 and the E of 4.
Awesome.
So we're going 1E, E, 1E, or excuse me, 1E, E, 3E, E. Okay?
Ooh.
And then, of course, the hi-hat and snare does not change.
Dude, that sounds great, man.
Yeah.
Do you want to play that one even a little bit slower so they can hear just the nuance between the hats?
Absolutely.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Okay, now what else can we do with our bass drum foot?
Okay, well, another thing we can do is play an isolated 16th note that's not on the downbeat or the and. We can
Right.
play an isolated or an isolated E.
Right.
So example 4, we're going 1E, and then we're playing the of 2,
Oof.
and then the and of 3, and then just 4 is by itself.
Very cool. Dude.
So that's a cool groove because you see it a lot.
Yeah.
It's one of the, remember how we always talk about transcending genres?
Yes.
That groove is in a Taylor Swift song. But
And we know what else it sounds
if
like.
you add in one more little note, that's When the Levee Breaks from Led Zeppelin.
2 entirely different genres. One
40 years
considered
apart.
Heavy metal.
Right.
At some point.
Right. So, I mean, these grooves have so many miles
Yeah.
of road to go. I mean, like you can do anything with these things.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the difference between those two.
Okay, so the Taylor Swift groove.
Yeah.
And what's funny is I had a little student. She was 6 and she learned that beat.
Wow.
And I was
sweet.
so happy. So that groove that John Bonham did was an accident because they were dork alert. They were recording in a hallway. And they left a room mic.
What's the name of that recording studio? I knew it at one
Don't
point.
remember.
I knew it at
Is
one
it the one
point.
that Grohl talks about?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I think so.
But they had left a room mic forever away, and it just
Yeah.
happened to catch this slapback effect.
So goons.
Because the original groove is. But when you got that that slapback, so at least that first note it had that effect, and it sounded so cool. So he's just like, okay, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
So that groove for Taylor Swift, actually, you know what? I'll loop it. I'll do the Taylor Swift one, and then the Bonham one, back to
Sweet.
back. So measure of each.
I especially like the way you're kind of accenting that second note a little bit more. Goo-goo.
Yeah.
Goo-goo.
Right.
Pa. Goo-goo pa.
Right. Well, because it's such a huge part of it that I can't do. You
Yeah.
know? And plus, I'm not a fan of if you're doing diddles or whatever, letting the second one just be a sympathetic rebound.
Right.
I want to control that.
Yes.
So if I'm doing diddles with the hands, I want to make sure that that second note is just as prominent as the first.
Will working on this groove help develop that?
Oh, absolutely,
cool.
because you have to. In working with any of the warm ups, because you're having to make sure that every note, whether it's an E or an or an and or a
Yes.
quarter note, is there's a purpose to it.
Absolutely. And I think it's so cool because even with this one, we talked about how number 2 specifically, even number one, they're a little bit of practice exercises.
Mm-hmm.
They're not always the most practical grooves, but making everything sound musical,
Right.
being intentional when you're playing everything that it still feels good,
Right.
Because I guarantee you, even if you had Steve Jordan playing something that was an exercise, you'd probably be like, man, that could probably be a groove in a song somewhere.
Oh, dude, absolutely.
Anything, right?
Well, and a lot of the exercises that I show are grooves.
Yes,
or
of
a lot
course.
of the grooves I show can be fills.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to be one or the other. Who says that? You know,
That's right. Yeah.
I could easily displace the hi-hat to the cowbell, and it's a completely different thing. Or
Totally.
Or the foot can. Yeah, it's just these transcend one thing or the other.
Yeah,
like they're
big time.
above being labeled.
Very cool, man. Well, why don't you play us out? We're going to work on these. On the PDF, we'll have separated that Taylor Swift groove and that Bonham groove, so you can look at both, you can develop both, knowing that there's just that extra 16th note.
Yeah.
But then it's like listening to those songs. What Taylor Swift song was it?
It's called Enchanted.
Enchanted. And then obviously When the Levee Breaks.
When the Levee Breaks.
Listen to both those. Go check those out. We'll leave links, or we'll leave a way to get to those through YouTube.
Yeah.
And just listen to them, like dig into the actual style and try and mimic that feel, because it's so much more than just a pattern.
Oh,
Because you could just go
absolutely.
boom boom pa boom 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 pa, and it's gonna sound like poop.
But
So,
also, it has a lope to it.
yes.
You know, Bono was a huge fan of 70s funk and 60s like doo-wop. Like he used to listen to Stax records before he would go on stage.
Wow, I didn't know that actually. Really,
Yeah,
dude.
He was-
Ben,
he
this
was
guy's
all-
the historian.
Dude,
man.
he was so into like James Brown drumming. Like that was the funky thing about it. You know.
Very cool, dude. All right, man, we'll play us out. We're going to head into the practice video and work on these ideas. If you guys have any questions, as always, please feel free to write us. Ben or myself will hit you guys back.
Yeah.
And, dude, play us out, man.
All right.